Hello again. This is section 3 of Job chapter 1. This is the last um, piece of the first chapter. And it reads like this. One day, when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabaeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the older brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. So, very interesting character. So a few things. Can you imagine being confronted with several tragedies of the most enormous scale, the most enormous proportions, without having time to process anything that happened in the quickest succession, one after another, one thing after another. He had no time to comprehend the nature and the gravity of everything that had taken place. And we're led to, I'm inclined to think, based on the wording of the text, that not only, obviously he was bombarded because literally multiple people were coming to him and telling him what had happened, which inclines me to think that this everything that happened took place within certainly within a 24-hour period of time, probably a lot less than that, within a few hours time, and that's generous. I think this from the way that we see it in the text, this could have happened within a half an hour. Everything happened very quickly and very suddenly, and I think that was part of Satan's motivation, was that if I if I am able to overwhelm him, then he's done for, and he's going to renounce everything that he ever believed, and he's going to curse God and do this, that, and the third. And that was a plausible strategy. And a lot of times, we're talking about Job in light of what we know about mental health. And one of the things that tends to happen is that with the uncertainty of life, you never know when things are going to happen. So a lot of people, for example, will lose a relative and lose multiple relatives within a short period of time. My grandfather, for example, lost 2 of his siblings within a month's time a few years ago, and those were my one was my great aunt, one was my great uncle, and I always thought to myself, wow, that had to have been difficult for him, because you don't have time to really think about what happened and to understand how you've been affected by what happened. And I think that's really what we see here. Um, and that's we are all we can all succumb to the rapid succession of events, um, just as Job did here. And one of the things, that I think a lot of times we lose sight of when things like that happen, whether whether events are happening one after the other or not, the nature of disappointment, I think is really misunderstood, in the sense that it is literally an aspect of life that we cannot control, that we cannot influence. Everything in life is temporary. That is the definition of life, and the consequence of time. We are not in eternity, we are in time. Because we are on the earth, we are operating within the compounds of time. Time coexists with reality, with eternity. But the two are not one and the same. As long as we are living, we are in time. And one of the things about life that we have to realize is that nothing that you have right now is permanent. Your situation is not permanent. Your circumstance is not permanent. That doesn't mean that it's not severe, but we have to make sure, you might have heard it said, you see poor people. There are a lot of people on the corner where I live, and we think to ourselves, wow, well, I have a job. The Lord blessed me with a job, and I'm, that's never going to happen to me. You don't know that. You cannot definitively say whether or not you're going to end up on the corner. The odds are that you won't. But the uncertainty of life means that nothing that we experience is set in stone. And so Job was a very wealthy man, and within 24 hours, within a very, very short period of time, all of it was gone. And that's one of the things that they hit on later in the book is this idea of sudden shifts and changes, and I remember talking about that in a previous video, and that's what we see here, and that's inherent in the nature of life, and that's one of the things that we have to realize. And one of the things that I think is interesting here is that Job understood that. He genuinely understood that. And that was why, instead of getting angry, he decided to give God the honor that he was due anyway, regardless of the circumstances he found himself in spite of the circumstances he found himself in. And in that we see an immense level of maturity in Job that is unique to Job. And one of the reasons probably why he was the perfect individual to experience all of these things, because his response was blameless entirely, and he was able to to gracefully endure his hardship, even though he was confused about why it was taking place. So that's all for chapter 1, and I look forward to going through chapter 2 with you as well.